My task was to review the data which we currently have available on adult women regarding immunogenicity. And actually, I'm referring to the trial which we started in 2004 in Poland and Germany on females 15 to 55 years. They were given 3 doses of the bivalent vaccine and followed up for 10 years. And the study concluded in 2014. We also measured the cervicovaginal secretions, the antibodies in the secretion, and tried to correlate that with the serum, and also safety was assessed. And let's start off with the data. Basically, we see that the younger ones had 100% seroprotection and seropositivity after 10 years. 26 to 45, we have 99.2%, and the elderly 46 to 55, 96 for HPV 16 and 83.8% for HPV 18. So slightly lower seropositivity levels in the elderly. And this is reflected here in the development, and I'm showing you these very old slides, and they're very nice when we designed them. You see the age-dependent decrease in the immune response here at month 24, and this is actually for HPV 16, and the same pattern here for HPV 18, which is shown here. And what is important is that overall we had a 8-fold higher seropositivity level compared to the natural infection. So the bivalent vaccine certainly is highly immunogenic, as shown here for this short follow-up of 24 months. The same pattern for HPV 18, slightly lower levels, but still a significant higher rate of seropositivity levels compared to natural infection. So basically what the slides shows is that the bivalent vaccine is highly immunogenic for both types. And this has been followed up for 10 years, and you see here the results for HPV 16. There is still age-dependent decrease as was continued over time, and in the elderly, and this is our target population here, the 26 to 45 years old, we are still high above the plateau level and also the natural infection level. This was for HPV 16, and the same pattern here for HPV 18. So what we can conclude from these slides is that the vaccine induces a robust immune response which is long-lasting and sustained, and there is no doubt that these levels will actually fall within 15 or 20 years, so that the immune response is sustained also in the slightly elderly females. This was the correlation which we established after 10 years serum levels compared to cervicovaginal secretion. And you see there's a very good correlation between the two compartments, which also helps us to understand a little bit the mechanism of protection. And let me tell you, this was a very tedious work to get all these females sampled over 10 years every year. It was quite some activity to collect them in every 10 years for these examinations. So what the vaccinologists usually do is they calculate the durability and the sustainability of the immune response by 2 models, the piecewise model and the modified power law, which slightly come up with different conclusions. But the general information is that these immune responses can be predicted to be long-lasting, and the calculation here was up to 30 years based on the data which we collected for the initial time points up to 10 years. So there is a 30-year seropositivity guaranteed for both models, for HPV 16 and 18 for the bivalent vaccine. The line in black, which is at the bottom, is the line for natural infection. So we still are, also after 30 years, we're still above the levels for natural infection. Then there was another trial done by Mark Einstein in the US, and he looked at data comparing the bivalent vaccine with a quadrivalent vaccine, also in various age groups from 18 to 45 years. And you see here the differences between the two vaccines. And what we can see from the slide is that it looks like there's an immunogenetical difference between the two vaccines with regard to immune responses and the magnitude of the immune response. And this is also sustained here, or this is also shown here for HPV-18, differences between the two vaccines in regard to immune response. How this translates into efficacy is another question which cannot be solved here, but at least we see that the two vaccines do have a different immunological profile, which is also confirmed for the various age groups. And these are the data for a 5-year follow-up of these cohorts for HPV 16 and 18. And you see that the immune responses between the bivalent and the quadrivalent vaccines are in fact different and are sustained over 5 years. The other point is, important information is that these data also do confirm the previous trial, which I've just shown to you. There is a sustained immune response over time, and this is just 5 years, but we've looked at 10 years. So practically we can say that these vaccines are highly immunogenic and induce a strong immune response over time. Safety, there is very little to report, and in fact we have seen nothing relevant over the 10 years follow-up time. We had a few cases of death, natural causes, car accidents, suicides, so the whole spectrum which you can see if you follow up a cohort over 10 years. So that's real life, natural life, which is reflected in these figures. So there was nothing really relevant to report over time. Let me conclude. The immune response over 10 years was sustained in females 15 to 55. We have a good seropositivity results for HPV 16, 96.3%, 83.8% for HPV 18. The GMT levels were far above the levels for natural infection. And what is important for the immunological profile, we have this plateau phase, which was induced following the initial high rise of antibodies, which then develops into a plateau. And this plateau is sustained over time in all age groups. There was a good correlation between the serum antibodies and the CVS, which in fact confirms that transudation is an important mechanism for the mode of action of the vaccine. And the safety profile was acceptable. I would say it was spectacular, but companies always are not allowed to use the word spectacular. They have to use acceptable. And the data which we have produced for the 15 to 55 years old have also been confirmed in another trial where they compared the two vaccines over a period of 5 years, and there was also a sustained immune response and slight differences between the immune response between the bivalent and the quadrivalent vaccine. Thank you very much.